feminists and social justice warriors.
You're fucking a white man!
They're so threatened by the idea that conservative people might be persuasive and interesting.
The internet war between SJWs and anti-SJWs had reached its climax. And two of the most prominent warlords in this bloody conflict were the feminist SJW Anita Sarkeesian.
We're not your fucking canaries.
And the neckbeard anti-SJW, the amazing atheist.
Let me present to you two premises.
Nowadays, these two YouTubers don't have any clout left, and if you weren't watching YouTube 5 years ago, you probably don't even know who the hell they are. But back then, they were quite influential and pretty much sworn enemies of each other. But what if I told you that secretly they had a baby? I know this sounds really crazy, but we are living crazy times. So ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, behold the rise of the SJW Neckbeard.
Israel needs to fucking go.
Bratto bros ain't being the same now. They can meme and can debate now. They own the maga with edgy humor. Still can't help with getting triggered though. Sag in the morning, triggered in the evening. Laughing at the lip sock, acting from patron.
Every time some dumb fuck trans girl on Twitter who's acting out mental illness, whining, calling people like me transphobic because I disagree with them.
Hello guys! What motivated me to make this video was the tea between lesbian YouTuber Arielle Scarcella and streamer Vaush, which happened a few months ago and began after Vaush released this video in response to a video by Arielle Scarcella where she claimed that she was leaving the left. Now, in this video, I will be responding to Vaush's response, but before I get to that, as always, there are a couple of disclaimers. First thing, Vaush is a man. I know that his beard makes it all very confusing since women are formless voids, but despite sporting the glamorous mane, Vaush is not a woman. By the way guys, that was a joke. Second, I did not make this video to defend Arielle Scarcella. I don't know her. The closest thing I ever had to interact with her was when she called me hot on Twitter, which was very flattering, but in my opinion, people have legitimate reasons to criticize her, and I will make some criticisms in this video myself. So, without any further ado, let's get to it.
I could be making, literally, like $800,000 a year. I'm not joking. If I left the left. If I left the left. Do you know what it means to leave the left? A lot of people have done this. Tim Pool has done this. Dave Rubin has done this. He's very famous for having done this.
That's true. It seems to be quite trendy to be an ex-lefty on YouTube, but with prominent right-wing commentators leaving the right like Hunter Avalon and Lawrence Southern recently, there may be a new niche opening on GripTube, so who knows what the future will bring.
I can't make any comments on her appearance because people will call me sexist and ignore everything else I have to say if I do. But when my girlfriend was here before I started the stream, when I was getting all the videos prepped and stuff, she said that Arielle looks like Fred.
I find it really pathetic when a self-proclaimed stud needs to hide under his woman's skirt when he's about to say something controversial. But let's assume that it was in fact his girlfriend who said it. Now this is what his girlfriends look like. I am not gonna make any comments about her appearance. Recently, I've been target of body shaming on the internet. I'm not gonna do any of that, but independently on how anybody looks like, it's not cool to make fun of somebody's looks. Looks don't define character. Attack someone's bad behavior, someone's bad arguments, but not their looks. Just stop.
I don't think gender is a social construct.
That's okay. You're just, operating outside of the conventional definition that is used in like all of academia. I mean, it's fine. If you don't believe gender is a social construct, that's your right as a God-fearing American. But it does make you wrong.
It is by definition, if you define it that way. Some people don't. Some people use the word gender as synonym to the word sex, referring exclusively to biology. And that is a common usage of the word acknowledged by dictionaries. Vaush has the freedom to say that people are wrong if they don't use the definition of gender used in academia. But that is linguistic prescription. Academia doesn't own language, and if people outside of it don't want to use their definition, it doesn't make them wrong.
I don't think cis straight white men are evil.
Good thing basically nobody does. People always do this, like the tide of the feminists who believe men are all evil, and they'll find like one tweet with 4 likes, That
is actually a good argument. The examples that Arielle provided were horrible. I would say though that there is some vilification of white people, especially coming from critical race theory. Some of the most extreme adepts of this theoretical framework will say that white people are inherently racist. So no matter how woke you are, if you're white, you're racist, and fuck you. Outside of academia, this is a fringe view, and the way Arielle phrased it was a bit of a straw man. But after the Floyd protests, some of these views are becoming more popular, and that is a bit of a worry.
I don't believe that genital preferences are transphobic or
well, good thing the video there says our genital preference is transphobic. I've actually talked with a lot of trans people about this, and the overwhelming consensus seems to be that genital preferences are not intrinsically transphobic.
I can't speak of consensus because as far as I know, there has never been a survey on trans people's opinions about genital preferences. But there are definitely quite a lot of trans people who believe that. Like, for example, world record cyclist and PhD Rachel McKinnon. In September last year, she posted a series of tweets claiming that any sexuality besides pansexual is immoral. Now, she did get quite a bit of backlash from other trans people at the time, but this person, making pretty much the same argument, got over 117,000 likes. So the number of people buying into this idea is on the rise. Also, when Vaush talks about Riley Dennis's video, he's being very disingenuous. Because there is another video by Riley Dennis when Riley claims that your dating preferences are discriminatory, no question mark. I don't know why Arielle decided to use the screenshot from the video with a question mark on her video. That was really stupid. Now, the fact that Vaush used Arielle's stupidity to claim that Riley has never made that argument is dishonest. I'm pretty sure Vaush knows that Riley did make that argument, and that's why Riley got so much backlash. And there is more. Here's an article from the BBC published on the 26th of June this year. It says, and this discrimination also extends to transphobic preferences in the dating world, from cisgender gay men not wanting to date trans men. Now, this was heavily criticized on Twitter, and after the outrage, the BBC pulled that part out of their article, but it was there because I read the original. So Vaush is disregarding Arielle and saying that nobody is claiming that dating preferences or genital preferences are transphobic. He is full of shit. Some trans people and self-identified allies are indeed trying to shame others, especially homosexuals, for not wanting to suck a trans person's dingling or love tunnel, and that is not okay. Nobody should be shamed into dating anybody, trans, cis, non-binary, whatever. If someone is not attracted to trans people and don't want to date them, it's their body, their choice. And it's kind of rapey to suggest otherwise.
Or that there are 97 genders.
Nobody believes there are 97 genders.
Another blatant lie. Here is a very well-known clip published by the BBC last year, where a teacher talking to a pupil claims that there are more than 100 genders.
No, there are so many gender identities. So we know we've got male and female, but there are over 100, if not more, gender identities now.
Nobody believes there are 97 genders.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Well, look at what we're looking at right here. Look, this is so perfect. This actually describes how it's stupid this woman is. Can I say that? Is that sexist?
He's starting to get really triggered. But no, it's not sexist at all for a man to call a woman stupid. That's totally fine. It's a gender-neutral insult. But I do find ironic that he's sort of downplaying sexism here, when he often calls sexist or misogynist men who disagrees or call out women he likes and agrees with.
What are these genders? Female to male, that's just being trans. FTM is just the same as female to male, except abbreviated. Gender bender and gender queer aren't genders. They're just ways of approaching your gender identity.
Oh, really? Well, according to this graph by the Trans Students Equality Resources, genderqueer is definitely a gender identity. And according to this even woker graph adapted by the Gender book, pretty much anything that isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger is transgender. So I guess our boy Vaush here has invalidated the identity of many trans people, which, if we are going to apply woke logic here,
I remember people calling me transphobic for disagreeing with trans people.
makes him a big-ass transphobe. Oops.
Remember, you know how people often say, like, the New York law shows there are 8 trillion genders. Nah. It actually just describes a huge list of gender terminology.
Over 100, if not more, gender identities now.
They just use it for clickbait articles to, manufacture outrage so their transphobic audience can jerk themselves off over how crazy the left has gotten.
Now, I can assure you that my audience is definitely not transphobic and is mostly left-leaning. So they're definitely not jerking themselves off over the fact that some elements on the left have lost the bloody plot. They, like myself, are actually worried about the intellectual decay of the left. And they're also worried seeing people on the left who, instead of addressing these issues, keep pretending that they don't exist and just keep deflecting. Because I don't know, maybe some people on the left are more worried about growing their subscriber base, getting more donations, instead of actually challenging their audience and make them think.
I don't think that male sex offenders belong in women's prisons.
Well, they're not male sex offenders, they're women.
No, they were male sex offenders. Some of them just claim to identify as women. They are not even transsexuals. So they're definitely not women in my book. And that, by the way, was exactly the case with Karen White, a criminal with a history of pedophilia and numerous sexual crimes against women, who was arrested for a violent crime, had no diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and had never underwent hormonal therapy. When arrested, this Karen was technically a cross-dresser or transvestite, not a trans woman.
They're not male sex offenders, they're women. You can't argue your way around this.
Yes, I can. I just did.
If people are... Do you have any idea what happens to trans women in male prisons?
Yeah, I can have a pretty good idea. I mean, this headline speaks for itself. But as I've shown, we already know for a fact what happens when you put males with a history of violence against women in women's prisons.
If you actually care about preventing harm, then you would put them in women's prisons.
Not all of them. If they have a history of violence against women, they should be placed nowhere near a women's prison. And if you can't understand that, then I'm sorry, I don't think you give a shit about women's safety.
This is one of those definitional slip-arounds. The vast scientific and social consensus trends towards the validity of trans people, so you don't actually get to make arguments like, I don't believe they should put men in women's prisons.
She didn't say men, she said males. And I found that you wokes of all people are pretty aware that there is a distinction between gender and sex.
We're doing this one more time, guys. This is really important. Sex and gender are different things, okay? Sex refers to physiological aspects of your body. Gender refers to social expectations, which coordinate the sex.
But maybe you just distinguish between them when it's convenient.
Okay, well, good thing they're not men. They're women.
When he was in prison with women, Karen White was a man. A violent, misogynistic man.
I don't think it's normal for people to be praised for walking around with shirts that say kill TERFs. I don't...
What? It's not normal. Nobody... Is that normal?
Normal is a vague word and it can mean so many things. I think violence is never acceptable unless you're talking about self-defense. That's it.
Political violence is of course wrong. I understand the sentiment. The term we're looking for here is reactionary centrist, a person who holds reactionary views, but, for whatever reason, masquerades dishonestly as a moderate. To these people, listen. We don't live in moderate times. Moderateness to injustice, compromise with hatred, tolerance of intolerance, they are all, in effect, an expression of solidarity. And solidarity with fascism gets you bashed too. Is that normal? Notice how she has to phrase this from the perspective of victimhood. That's feminists for you, you know? That's these stupid femoids for you.
As if trannies never claim victimhood. Bitch, please. And femoid. That is a very interesting word for self-proclaimed feminists to use against a woman. But I guess that's how Vaush establishes intimacy with the reformed incels in his audience. Oh my god, I'm just drinking so fast watching this shit. Ugh.
What she has to say is, I don't believe it's normal to praise people for walking around saying they want to kill TERFs. She has to phrase it in a way that implies that all of society is in favor of people saying they want to kill TERFs.
Now, I didn't get that at all. But unfortunately, there are some people who think it's humorous to threaten violence against women who disagree with them over these trans issues. Like this male individual here, who got about 200,000 likes after he made a tweet challenging J.K. Rowling to a fistfight. That shit is not okay.
Don't think like these people, and I no longer want to be associated with them.
So it's all just like trans shit then? It's just all trans stuff? I don't think you were associated with them. I mean, you're a transphobe, right?
So are you, as established earlier.
I've reached peak LGBT. This is my coming out video. Never in my life have I been more canceled, tortured, tormented, harassed.
Quit whining, dude. What, harassed? You're just transphobic.
So are you.
If you're a transphobe, you're transphobic, you're calling trans women men, you're a transphobe, so you're transphobic. People are gonna call you transphobic.
Now, as far as I know, she's not calling trans women men. She's calling men trans-identified males who are using trans identities to get a free pass to abuse women. Like Karen or Jessica and Eve. I think it's dishonest to say that Arielle is calling trans women men. I don't think that's what she's doing at all.
In August 2017, Scarcella teamed up with Jackie Glenn to produce a response to a video by Fiona, who, just like her girlfriend, trans feminist Riley Dennis, called on her audience to reflect how societal and cultural influences may have a role in trans exclusionary dating preferences. Is this the issue?
That is the video that was referred earlier when Riley was trying to guilt-trip people into sucking trans women's dinglings.
Make matters worse, Scarcella tweeted her video with a caption calling Fiona a bisexual with a trans girlfriend a homophobic SJW, then proceeded to tag numerous influential anti-feminist and transphobic personalities. Interesting.
I don't know any of this, but Arielle does have a history of fraternizing with some pretty questionable people.
Here's Arielle Scarcella. Oh, tagging Blair White back in 2017.
She tagged a trans woman! How dare she?
By the way, if you ever wanted to concern yourself with whether or not Arielle Scarcella ever was, or currently is, like a progressive or an LGBT ally, she literally just a few days ago posted this.
Yeah, I agree that any LGBT person still supporting Donald Trump is a political sadomasochist.
All available evidence points towards Arielle Scarcella having been a conservative and a transphobe from the start, and like all transphobes who masquerade themselves as LGB allies,
he's an expert in that, so let's listen to him.
They're actually willing to drop everything and join up with fascists the nanosecond they get any pushback on their transphobia.
You heard him. If you push back at him, he will become a fascist. It's on you now.
Never have I witnessed literal mentally ill individuals who are latching themselves onto the LGBT community without actually being ill individuals.
What is the mental illness here? And here's a person, and here are two people with like funny hair, I guess? What is this?
Now the person on the right is the ma'am trans.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
And there is some pretty shady things about this person which I will not get into in this video.
I was onto the LGBT community without actually being LGBT for the sake of oppression points, external validation, and sympathy.
These are literally just buzzwords, dude. There are no examples being provided.
Her examples definitely should be better. But Vaush, of all people, calling someone out for using buzzwords. Bitch, please.
So, and then we just throw a headline, a trans person sexually assaulted inmates? Do you have any idea how often sexual assault happens in jail? Jail is literally a fucking hotbed of sexual assault.
In the UK, there is a statistical overrepresentation of trans women committing sexual crimes in women's prison. Well, not all of them are actually trans women, some are just trans-identified, as we've seen earlier. But at the same time, trans women are overrepresented as victims of sexual crimes on male prisons. And that is also a huge problem. Now, this debate about prisons is probably the most difficult debate about trans rights. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not treating this debate with the seriousness it deserves and are aiming to trying to find some sort of conciliatory solution because there are legitimate concerns on both sides here. Look, man, what I find really distasteful about this conversation on prisons is privileged men like this Vaush guy with arguments like sexual assault happened in prison anyway, so why the fuck bother? To put someone like Karen White with that person's criminal history in a female prison was insane. And not only the women who are assaulted pay the price, us trans women who are incarcerated are paying the price too. Because that stupid decision created a lot more skepticism in people about the idea of mixing cis and transgender women in prison. What is happening in the UK is that they are creating specific prisons for transgender and trans-identified people. So instead of putting these violent creeps with cis women, they're just mixing them with us trans women. And as the statistics on male prisons show, to a fucking rapist, it makes no difference if you're cis or trans. So this stupid decision to allow anyone who identify as trans to be transferred to a woman's prison is causing a big trouble for us trans women. So us trans women are the ones who are really paying the ultimate price for this stupidity. That's why these demagogues and virtue signalers with their worldview from an ivory tower are not really adding anything meaningful to this discussion, showing this absolute lack of concern for women's safety.
It's just like one article. It's just like they just clip. This is the exact same shit people like Paul Joseph Watson will do with their fucking 1350 shit. They'll be like, yeah, here, the diverse youth of UK causing a ruckus yet again. And it'll be like a video of a black guy yelling on the street or something.
As we've seen, it's not just one isolated case, but Karen's case is very important, considering that person's criminal history, because it shows how pernicious so-called can be. Look, I agree, as trans women have to be in prison with women, not with men, but there should be a standard to who is considered a trans woman according to the law. It can't be just like any creep can simply appropriate a trans label or trans identity for their own personal gains. In my honest opinion, to defend the idea that self-identification alone is enough for someone to be trans is transphobic, because that completely erases the meaning of being transgender.
Oh, here's Jessica Yaniv, the same trans person who literally everyone on the internet, left and right, dogpiled and agreed was a lunatic. Gotta throw them in here. Definitely representative of the whole.
I don't think it's implied that Arielle is saying that Jessica Yaniv represents all trans people. As it has been established, Arielle has trans friends. But Jessica Yaniv represents a problem. The same problem Karen White represents. The same problem that person who was caught downloading child pornography in a woman's hospital represents. The problem that comes with the removal of gatekeeping.
Never have I seen such disrespect from younger LGBT people to the older lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocates.
What the fuck are you wait, it's disrespectful to call Buck Angel out for being problematic in some respects?
Now, I think it's disrespectful, ignorant, and entitled for any trans person, especially young trans people, to call Buck Angel transphobic. You might call him problematic, you might call him a boomer, you might call him all fucking insults under the sun. But to call that man transphobic with the history of advocacy for trans people that he has, it's absolutely disgraceful. And everyone who does that should be embarrassed.
It's who have been paving the way for us for longer than we've all been alive. Never.
Oh, for us? What do you mean for us? What exactly does that mean?
She's a lesbian. You know the L in LGBT? Seems like a lot of people have forgotten about it.
If Buck Angel was like the height of modern progressivism, and Buck Angel was frequently attacked by conservatives for being a trans dude or whatever, Arielle right here would not invoke his name.
Do you understand that Buck has transitioned in a much more difficult time for trans people? That he faced a lot of prejudice and almost killed himself? Stop being such an entitled prick and respect that guy's history, even if you disagree with him in some issues.
Arielle Scarcella has never been a leftist and never been a progressive. She's just been a lesbian who advocates for women's issues.
Which right-wing conservatives are notorious for.
Not all women, though. Cisgender women. And that's it.
She doesn't seem to have any issues with transsexual women, as far as I'm aware.
I've noticed this change coming onto my channel within the past 2 years, as I've gotten what some people would say more conservative. And yeah, I have, haven't I? Since the queer movement.
Damn. Wow. Fascinating. You've been a bigot for years, and now you're finally capitalizing on it.
There is some truth in that, but I'm gonna get deeper into that later.
I wanted to share a new label of mine with you.
Wait, is this gonna be an attack helicopter joke?
I am officially leaving the left. When it's gotten to the point where I can no longer even...
That's not a label, you stupid cunt.
Whoa! That escalated quickly. Okay, this is where I really have a problem with this video. Here in Australia and in the UK, the word count is harmless. We use it all the fucking time. But in America, that is kind of a big deal, especially if it's a man calling a woman a count. Now, when we have Vaush here advocating for the rights of rapists to be placed in women's prisons, while calling a woman a count and making fun of her looks, he's only feeding the narrative of red femmes that people advocating for trans rights are just misogynists. Because, well, he's being a bleeding misogynist. You are not helping us, dude. Not at all. Okay, he just sparks out for like 5 minutes after this, and it's pretty fucking funny. But I'm not going to respond to that. You can just go watch the video yourself.
When we praise news stories like this that make absolutely no sense.
Trans man gives birth to non-binary partner's baby with female sperm donor.
Which is a silly headline.
And do nothing for our movement.
What do you mean, do nothing for our movement? It's just a fucking headline, you stupid bitch.
Just like silly headlines, being a misogynist and a transphobe, like Vaush here, doesn't really help the cause of trans people.
Trans man, so presumably someone with a vagina, gives birth to non-binary partner's baby with female sperm donor. So there was a female who had a penis, who gave sperm.
If she has a penis and testicles, she's technically not a female. Her sex is male.
And was put in the trans man, and that trans man had a non-binary partner, and they had a kid.
So a male donated sperm to fertilize a female. The fact that they are transgender made the story interesting and newsworthy, sure. But using labels in such a clumsy way, mixing what is used for gender and what is used for biology, makes it all very confusing. It doesn't help making the distinction between sex and gender to people who are not used to think about this stuff. Headlines like that don't help us at all.
When this person is praised by LGBT organizations and deemed a speaker for lesbians, and people say that straight black men...
Yeah, damn, get fucked.
Praised by LGBT organizations.
This incredible trans woman is challenging the way we think about gender. Yeah, some fucking women have beards.
Except that that is not a woman. That is a typical biological male wearing clothes that we typically associate with women. Now, in my opinion, to think that clothes inherently belong to a gender or another, and that wearing them literally makes you change your gender, is backwards. Now, this person can dress however the hell they want. I'm pretty okay with that. I have no problem at all.
There are cis women who have beards. Did you know that? Have you ever seen, there's a religious sect in like the Middle East or something? I don't know the specifics, but you can't shave, and some of the ladies there are really hairy, and some of the girls have beards. And they're girls, they're cisgender women.
Since he didn't give any specifics, I think he's full of shit. But he's right in saying that some females do grow beards. It's uncommon, but it can happen. Actually, exploring why it happens can help us understand why beards are a typically male secondary sex characteristic. This is Lisa. This is Lisa with a beard. Lisa is a menstruator. Menstruators don't typically have beards, which is why when they do, medicine calls it hirsutism. Hirsutism has two major causes. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, caused by a cyst in the ovaries that can cause a number of undesirable symptoms, infertility and hormonal imbalance. And adrenal gland disorders, which also affect the production of sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen. A third cause for excessive facial hair in menstruators is when they reach menopause and effectively become ex-menstruators, and estrogen levels decrease, causing hormonal imbalance. Now, both ejaculators and menstruators have hair follicles on their face. However, it is the hormone testosterone that regulates facial hair growth. Since menstruators typically have very low testosterone in comparison to ejaculators, hair growth is not activated on the same capacity. Now, menstruators typically do have some facial hair, but they cannot grow full beards like ejaculators unless there is some hormonal imbalance like our friend Lisa here.
Could you hurry up? I'm gonna be tardy.
Almost finished. Or they start taking testosterone, which is exactly why trans men do have full-grown beards. Okay, I think you're done.
Straight black men are the white men of black people.
Straight black men are the white men of black people. I think I saw one tweet saying that, and then a bunch of people said it was dumb, and it was one tweet, and that's it. Like, that's the entire history of that phrase.
I have never seen anyone saying that, and it does sound like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And I agree with Vaush here that this is definitely not a mainstream position on the left.
Anytime anything happens that she doesn't like, it means the left is crazy. Meanwhile, on the right, I mean, we have literal, like, I argue with Nazis all the time. Like, the right in this country is literally trying to institute, like, a white nationalist country, disempower, you know, minorities, including, by the way, lesbians.
Okay, this is where I absolutely agree with Vaush, and I don't understand people like Arielle Scarcella. In America, the right as a whole is way crazier than the left. I mean, the Vice President of the United States is a young Earth creationist. He literally believes in dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. And then there is, of course, the President, who is Donald Trump.
I love the poorly educated.
Now, there are absolutely some problematic elements on the left, and wokes being the worst of them, because they're elitist, authoritarian, superficial, anti-science, exceptionally stupid, and they are supported by mainstream media and the Silicon Valley, which means that they have been completely assimilated by capitalism. But the white nationalists, gunmen, Bible fanatics on the right are way crazier and way more dangerous than anyone on the left. And they are a legitimate threat to every minority in America.
Here's what the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, okay, it says, even both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS. It was right there in the Bible all along.
So if you are a part of a minority, I really don't understand how you can support that. Why aren't you focusing on fixing the left or becoming somewhat of a centrist instead of running straight to the arms of the people who want to oppress you? That makes no fucking sense to me.
This is not a person who is interested in having conversations. This is a grifter through and through. This is a bad faith argument. This person doesn't want conversation. I would have more luck arguing with fucking Dave Rubin and all the sincerity with which he believes the shit he says.
Now, I think he's making a bunch of assumptions here, but as I said earlier, I don't understand people like Arielle. Her political compass is left.
The results.
So what does this mean?
So you're like...
Okay, so what does this mean?
So what she says about policies don't make any bloody sense. And that does give people reasons to question her motivations and think that, yeah, maybe she's just a grifter. Vaush then goes on to talk about her association with Steven Crowder, which I also agree with. Steven Crowder is the most dishonest person on GriftTube. Pretty much every single one of his videos is packed with lies and misrepresentation. His videos about climate change, for example, have been utterly debunked by Potholer54. But has Crowder changed his views on climate change after that? Of course not. Crowder is also anti-gay marriage and is the kind of guy that will use your sexuality or your transgender status as a weapon against you if he doesn't like you, which makes him a homophobe and a transphobe. And I don't understand how anyone who is LGBT would want to be associated with a person like that.
That for the first time in a decade, LGBT acceptance is down.
I see the logic. LGBT acceptance is slipping. Therefore, I'll make a video decrying the LGBT community and joining with fascists to prevent this decline in acceptance of the LGBT community.
Yeah, I think Vaush has a point there, and there is a lot of infighting within LGBT, a lot because of wokes. They are using trans issues to support a hidden agenda, and I think that is turning a lot of people off from LGBT, which is a main reason why I think wokeness is detrimental to the left, detrimental to LGBT people, and that's why it needs to be extirpated from left-wing politics.
That's not a community, that's a hive mind cult. Once again, my name is Arielle.
Hunter Avallone actually recently started like putting out content he agrees with more and thinking for himself, and he got fucking dogpiled by the conservative media by it.
That is very true, and why I became a huge fan of Hunter Avallone, while saying that feels as weird as unironically liking a tweet from Ben Shapiro, as I did the other day. The end is fucking near.
I will see you guys back here in a few days with a brand new video. Tons more content to come. Subscribe if you haven't already.
I have no doubt that tons more content is to come. What does the content look like in the month since she bravely left the left? Let's see. The only shit she's getting high views on are fucking clickbait sex videos.
Talking about lesbian sex is literally her channel. It's what she became famous for and what lesbians follow her for, because yeah, she has a huge following among lesbians.
The only shit that she ever fucking gets views on are de facto porn clickbait videos for straight men and for anti-trans videos. Nobody ever gave a fuck about this bitch.
Yikes. It completely derails from here. As I said earlier, having a man saying this kind of shit about women, about lesbians, really doesn't help trans people. Especially when it's someone with his history. What are you talking about? Yeah, his shady history. What shady past? And of course, thank you so much to my patrons and supporters. Special thanks to Nikki P, Insidious V, Chef P, and Steven G. And to my featured patrons celebrating 6 months and 12 months of patronage.